Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. I'm so glad that you've joined us. For those of you on spring break that don't normally get to watch Frankly Speaking but are this morning, I can think of better ways to spend your spring break, but we appreciate you being with us. We have a lot to get to this morning. We're going to talk about Trump's clean bill of health. We've got quite a few things here, of course, about tariffs, about Doge, about some potential 2028 Democrat candidates, and, of course, the New York State budget, and much more. Let's get to some comments that we missed after after Friday's broadcast. First off, I just missed this one, and I feel bad because it's pretty out of date now, but happy Friday, Frank. Well, happy belated Friday to that viewer. Great job as usual. Enjoy your weekend. Well, thank you. We had a lot of fun on Friday's show, and I did enjoy the weekend, so I appreciate that. Comment from a different viewer. Hello, Frank. Well, hello. I think Hochul wants to be Nancy Pelosi when she grows up. That's a great point. That's very much what she looks as if she's attempting anyway, but falling flat every time, but we'll continue. And about Trump's mental health. They tried that the last time he was president. I think it would be very stupid to think that they could even tell, after all, every person except the media, you're an exception, or the Dems knew Biden was, we'll say, not mentally all there. They knew. They just didn't want to report on it. Now you have so many in the media trying to report on this. Well, in the old days, they would have called it fake news. But Trump's some type of mental decline, which, did you see how busy he was over the weekend at that UFC fight, answering reporters' questions late into the night on Air Force One? We're going to give you some examples of that. So, yes, it's laughable at face value, but the media is desperate right now. And Pete Hegseth said that about Democrats over the weekend. We'll get to that later on. But specifically Hakeem Jeffries. Hakeem Jeffries is trying to, like to that viewer's point, Hochul's trying to be Nancy Pelosi. Hakeem Jeffries is attempting it too. He doesn't know quite how to get his sea legs under him because his own party is mad that he and Chuck Schumer aren't doing enough to resist Trump. So he's out there now name calling, specifically on Pete Hegseth. It's quite pathetic, but that's where they are at. Comment from a different viewer asking about the Daylight Savings Time initiative. Yes, Trump, I believe it was on Friday, endorsed the idea of keeping the clock permanently set. No more switching back and forth. So we'll see if that makes it through, when that will arise, but it looks like there's a lot of support, bipartisan support for it. Now, there is some opposed, but that's going to be an interesting fight when it hits. Okay, so no real updates, no time frame, but there does seem to be some momentum for it. Okay, yesterday, Rory McIlroy won his first Masters. If you watched it, it was quite entertaining. He nearly blew it, forcing a playoff, but then ultimately won. Speaking with reporters on Air Force One, President Trump gave his congratulations to Rory, who became the sixth golfer ever to capture the coveted Grand Slam, winning every single professional golf major. Trump said, quote, "I have to congratulate Rory. That took tremendous courage. He was having a hard time, but it showed great guts and stamina, and courage. People have no idea how tough that is. He came back. It's better for him that it happened that way because that showed real courage to have come back from what could have been a tragedy. He called the Masters maybe my favorite sporting show and that he loves watching it every year when possible." He also gave a shout out to Justin Rose, who Rory had to face in that sudden death playoff after he missed the par putt on the 72nd hole of the tournament. Rose buried a deep birdie putt on hole 18 to move to 11 under and put pressure on Rory, who bogeyed the same hole in regulation. This is what Trump had to say. "Justin Rose was great. Look, they're great athletes under tremendous pressure. But unless you're a golfer, you don't understand that 1/100th of an inch makes a difference between a great shot and a horrible shot." So more or less giving you that breaking news that Trump did weigh in on the Masters. He had a busy week of sports, weighing in on the Masters, attending the UFC fight, where he received a hero's welcome. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on. Perhaps the biggest news story from over the weekend, Pennsylvania State Police have arrested a Harrisburg man for the arson attack on Governor Josh Shapiro and his family. It forced the governor and his family to flee the governor's mansion on the first night of Passover. Cody Balmer, 38 years old, of Harrisburg, is expected to face charges of attempted murder, terrorism, aggravated arson, and aggravated assault. Shapiro, who is Jewish, became visibly emotional as he spoke about the 2 a.m. attack on his home as he and his family slept inside. I didn't realize quite how bad it was until I saw pictures of how much damage was done. This is what Governor Shapiro, now we know Governor Shapiro, many have speculated, will run for president in 2028. He said, if he was trying to terrorize our family, our friends, the Jewish community who joined us for a Passover Seder in the room last night, hear me out on this. We celebrated our faith last night proudly, and in a few hours, we will celebrate our second Seder of Passover. The entire home was safely evacuated and no one was injured, he wrote on X. Balmer was allegedly carrying homemade incendiary devices when he snuck into the gated compound that is the official residence of the governor by jumping a fence. Investigators believe the attack was targeted but haven't determined a specific motive. Police did not release more details on Balmer's action, but the photo is quite, I guess for lack of a better word, chilling. The Pennsylvania State Police will be conducting arson, attempted homicide, and aggravated arson investigations, according to Christopher Paris, the state police commissioner. Shapiro, a leader in the Democrat Party, was first elected governor of Pennsylvania back in 2022 after serving 6 years as state attorney general. He was on the short list of potential running mates, if you recall, with Harris. There's a lot of speculation why Harris did not ultimately opt to pick Josh Shapiro. We don't need to relitigate that. Some suggested it was because of his Jewish faith. While thanking the public for their well wishes, Shapiro took a stand saying, this type of violence is not okay. This kind of violence is becoming far too common in our society, and I don't give a darn if it's coming from one particular side or the other, directed at one particular party or another, one particular person or another. It is not okay, and it has to stop. We have to be better than this. We have a responsibility to all be better. Now, this, as we see this happening throughout the country when it comes to Tesla dealerships, when we see some of the violence in the protests on college campuses as well, we know there is, and I don't know this person's political persuasion that was arrested, but there does seem to be quite a strain of anti-Semitism, unfortunately, rearing its ugly head. Now, according to CNN, Shapiro, his wife Lori, and their 4 children, 2 dogs, and another family were forced to evacuate from the home, which did have significant damage due to this fire. There were no injuries. Cody Balmer, again, was the one arrested for this. Shapiro and his family woke up around 2 a.m. Sunday to loud bangs on the door from one of the state troopers assigned to their detail after an arsonist had allegedly set fire in the governor's residence. Balmer hopped the fence surrounding the residence and broke into the home before setting the fire. Now, it seems quite surprising that he was able to get that close to the home so easily. Now, Balmer was inside the governor's residence for less than 1 minute and actively evaded troopers who were searching for him at the same time. He clearly had a plan, said Lieutenant Colonel George Bivens. He was very methodical in his approach. According to audio from the scanners, a caller reported a large fire on the first floor of the governor's residence, and they could see fire out of the window. Now, at the news conference, Shapiro said the attack was targeted, but a motive is not yet known. Balmer is facing arrest in a separate case stemming from 2023, a simple assault charge. In another case, Balmer pleaded guilty in 2016 to forgery and theft by deception. Balmer has not yet been charged by the state in connection with the alleged arson. He could also face federal charges, according to the state district attorney. Bivens said a security review is underway to determine how we can ensure that we don't have a repeat situation like this. So you can see the photos online. As I said, Shapiro has condemned the violence that is taking place in U.S. politics, and he refuses to be deterred. But this, unfortunately, the same as when we talk about the arson attacks on Tesla dealerships. It's unfortunately becoming more commonplace, this kind of political violence. So there's an update from a major story from over the weekend. We've got to take our first break. A couple of quick things on the New York State side of things that I want to get to. We're also going to be talking a lot about Donald Trump and tariffs. Did you happen to see the president and what was almost his whole cabinet at the UFC fight? We also, and I'm not going to talk about this very much, but Bill Maher did talk about over the weekend his dinner with Trump, spoke very positively of the dinner, having good conversations. We may get to that, but your thoughts on that. All that and much more. We're just getting warmed up on this Monday morning edition of Frankly Speaking. Again, if you're joining us and you're on your spring break, thank you so much. We will be right back after this. Stay with us.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call today.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
CSS Workforce invites you to the 2025 Regional Job Fair at SUNY Corning Community College, Wednesday, April 23rd from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Area employers with immediate full-time, part-time, and internship opportunities will be on hand with many conducting on-site interviews. It's free and open to the public, so bring an ample supply of resumes and dress for success. Explore, network, and upgrade your career at the Regional Job Fair inside the gymnasium at SUNY Corning Community College. Academic Drive in Corning, Wednesday, April 23rd from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m.
High school students, the Elmira Elks College Fair will be happening April 30th from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Elmira Elks Lodge, located at 300 East Ray Street in downtown Elmira. It's open and free to the public. There's free parking. There'll also be mascots as you come in. There'll be up to 50 colleges, representatives from technical schools, universities, in-state, out-of-state, 2-year, 4-year, public and private schools. If you're looking to transfer, this will be the college fair for you. Also a chance to win an instant scholarship drawing at 8 o'clock. Come down to the Elmira Elks College Fair on April 30th from 6 to 8 p.m.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. A comment from Mark. Mark writes in and says, good morning. Well, good morning to you, Mark. Appreciate it. I guess people are not too mad at Trump like the Democrats want them to be, as he got a standing ovation at the cage fight. He sure did. And there was a piece, and I'm going to jump ahead to it. This wasn't going to be what this segment was about, but it's so perfect in response to what Mark said. This is by Shane Galvin, and you can find it for yourself at the New York Post. But it says, well, President Trump thrilled crowds in Miami, and I happened to watch. I didn't watch the fights, but I watched some of the coverage of Trump's entrance into the fights where he gets a hero's welcome. But it says here, while Trump thrilled crowds in Miami, Senator Bernie Sanders found a more left-leaning audience at Coachella, where the socialist firebrand took the stage to rant about his pet causes. So to read the headline of this piece, Bernie Sanders delivers ranting speech at Coachella Festival as Trump thrills the UFC crowd in Florida. Now, the independent Vermont senator was the surprise opening act for singer-songwriter Clairo, who Sanders thanked for allowing him to speak to the captive audience ahead of her much-anticipated performance, a speech he used to rail against the 1%, President Trump, and the war in Gaza. Now, this is always interesting, too, because if you look at the cost of Coachella and you look at how much money people have that attend, it's interesting that he rails against the 1%. It reminds me very much of Bruce Springsteen. Bruce Springsteen used to use his concerts to protest the 1% as he was charging, $300-400 a ticket, where he is now a billionaire. Kind of interesting, a little hypocritical. Also, imagine paying all that money. It's very expensive, food, drinks, the tickets for Coachella. Imagine paying that and then having to listen to a long-winded rant from Senator Bernie Sanders. But I'll continue. This country faces some very difficult challenges, and the future of what happens to America is dependent on your generation, Sanders said to the crowd of partygoers in California. We need you to stand up to fight for justice, to fight for economic justice, social justice, and racial justice, he said, while Trump got a thunderous reaction from the crowd in Miami at the UFC 314 event. His name didn't get a warm welcome when Sanders referenced him before the music fans in deep blue California. Now we got a president of the United States, Sanders started before being interrupted by a loud chorus of boos, to which he replied, I agree. He thinks that climate change is a hoax. He is dangerously wrong. And you and I are going to have to stand up to the fossil fuel industry and tell them to stop destroying this planet, Sanders said. Sanders also harped on issues such as women's rights, raged against the billionaire class, and harped on the inadequacies of the American healthcare industry. We need you to stand up to insurance companies and the drug companies and understand that healthcare is a human right, Sanders said. The 83-year-old revealed in his speech that he is a major fan of Gen Z musician Clairo, who he characterized as a proper liberal advocate. I'm here because Clairo has used her prominence to fight for women's rights, to try and end the terrible, brutal war in Gaza, where thousands of women and children are being killed. So I want to thank Clairo for not only being a great band, but for the great work she is doing. So this was a part of his Fighting Oligarchy, Where We Go From Here tour. The AOC joins him at. So imagine, well, it was a clear difference between Trump's attendance at the UFC and Bernie Sanders' ranting speech at Coachella. So thank you for giving me an opportunity to bring that up, Mark. I appreciate the comments. Okay, this is an update from a story that I've been bringing to you for quite a few weeks now. And it's this idea, and I get some pushback on this, and I do appreciate that. But there's this idea that because some Republicans are not holding town halls, there are many people on the left, particularly, who are upset about this. They say that it does not equal representation in a way. Now, what I have said is I don't blame Republicans for not doing town halls. I'm very much pro-town hall in a normal setting, a town hall that's done in good faith. I help I organize town halls for Congressman Reed and Congressman Semplinsky. I'm a very big fan of town halls. Having said that, now is not the time for town halls because they're not being held in good faith. What the left wants to do, and what we've seen over and over again in the media when a Republican decides to hold a town hall, the quote-unquote constituents arrive very much aided by the help of major political organizations, and they boo, hiss, yell, shout down their congressperson, and then the headline can read, red state conservative Republican booed by constituents, and presenting it in a way that all of his or her constituents have turned on Trump. Well, now there's a tactic, which is we're going to hold a town hall, and it's it is very much often a part of the various political organizations that are running it, that are promoting it, whatever you want to say about that. Some call it astroturfing. But now what they're doing is setting a date and a location for a town hall and demanding or inviting their congressperson to attend. Well, of course, the congressperson did not set up the town hall, so they don't attend. And that gives the media that opportunity that they want to say that the Republican didn't attend. Here's a fine example of that coming from the Oswego County News Now website. 10 no-shows at packed Oswego Town Hall. Now, if this were her own town hall that she was holding, you could understand why that would be the headline. Of course, it is not. It was put on by various groups that, again, I keep using this term, was not done in good faith. They were looking to boo Claudia Tenney. They were looking to harass Claudia Tenney. and get the video so they can post online and look as if they're the hero. Hundreds of people packed into the hotel conference room Saturday for a town hall event where they plan to air grievances and share concerns with Representative Claudia Tenney. But Tenney never appeared, and the audience had to settle for a cardboard cutout of their congresswoman placed next to the stage. Indivisible, and that's one of these groups, these far-left groups that are holding these. Indivisible, Oswego County, hosted the town hall meeting at the Lake Ontario Event and Conference Center in the city of Oswego. So is this a fair characterization? Because if you started reading this, you would think it was her town hall, wouldn't you? That she didn't attend her own town hall. So if I were to say right now, I'm holding an on-air interview with Senator Chuck Schumer. I am asking Chuck Schumer to be on the air right now. And then if he doesn't show, I can say that he was a no-show? I mean, that's what they did. This was not an official event from Claudia Tenney. It was an official event from the far-left group Indivisible. But I'll continue. The town hall was preceded in the morning by the group's 6th consecutive Saturday rally on the Bridge Street Bridge, this time focusing on the Trump administration's new tariffs. But by 1 p.m., cars lined both sides of the street outside the conference center and filled the parking lots. Over 300 people were packed in the room. Members of Indivisible, Oswego County, said Tenney had been invited multiple times and declined to attend. Well, there you go. So is this headline, it reeks of bias, Tenney no-shows at packed Oswego Town Hall. I'm not going to go through what everybody commented. I don't think it's necessary. But it says here, I cut off a little bit of what I was going to say. They reminded everyone to keep the remarks classy when stating their concerns, as the recording of the meeting would be sent to Tenney herself. The audience was also reminded to pick up a voter registration form if they hadn't already registered. Paul McKinney, one of the founders of Indivisible, spoke to the crowd. He motioned to the cardboard cutout of Tenney and said something was missing. To be totally honest with you, Congresswoman Tenney doesn't really give a darn. So a far-left organization invites Claudia Tenney to a town hall, not done in good faith, and when she doesn't show up, the media does their due diligence to make sure that they can write a hit piece on Claudia Tenney. Interesting. I'm not going to go through, again, all the quotes, but the event pivoted to an open floor, allowing attendees to share their frustrations with two-dimensional Tenney and the audience. Many shared stories of either personally serving in the military or family members who had particularly frustrated with the treatment of veterans and those on Medicaid. Over a dozen people lined up to take the microphone and say, "Shame on you," and "Where are you?" And some made promises to take part in their local governments. By the end, a mix of frustration and hope seemed to hang over the crowd, newly invigorated by having connected with each other in place of Tenney. Tenney's office did not immediately respond to an email seeking comment. So Tenney, a no-show at a packed Oswego town hall that she did not hold and was merely invited to. How many events do Congress people get invited to that they are not able to attend? I don't think you would normally see a headline like that in any other instance. But that was to kind of, just give you another example, or back up perhaps what I've been saying to defend my position on it, that as of right now, it is not my feeling that it is a smart move for a Republican to attend a town hall, because the media is looking to use that as a weapon against them. The media, or the attendees, of course, parts of these various far-left groups are looking to get that viral video, and it's been proven time and time again. Now they've taken a step further, holding town halls that they invite their congressperson to without any type of official response from the congressperson. So just giving you an example of that. We got some comments coming in. We got some waves coming in. Oh, by the way, I know I've been bringing this up on some shows, not others, but we have on our website, the WYDC TV.com. It's a question of the day, and we received a lot of responses in regards to tariffs, but there's one today that I thought was pretty clever. And the question is, tomorrow is the deadline for filing your taxes. Have you gone through your taxes yet? Or have you been procrastinating? Having a little trouble with that this morning. So that's the question. We asked that on Friday's program. Were you going to spend the weekend doing your taxes? Did you wait that long? So if you want to answer at Big Fox, you can go to WYDCTV.com and answer the question of the day. Have you filed your taxes? All right, we're going to take a short break. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
In today's world, securing your business is more important than ever. Protected with Boss Security's state-of-the-art alarm systems. When seconds matter, trust the experts. Boss Security is proud to safeguard local businesses across the Twin Tiers. Contact Boss Security today.
What better start or end every day than relaxing in your very own Hesselson's hot tub? Massage therapy, relaxation, stress reliever, pain management, soothing muscles, or just spending time with a loved one. Hot water therapy really does make every day better. Hesselson's has been a part of this great community for over 70 years, still being locally owned and operated. So make the drive to Hesselson's and start making your path to a better life today. And after 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
I invite you to discover what makes our school community so special, including the fact that everything, top-notch education, housing, healthcare, food, clothing, technology, and much more is provided to our students at no cost to our families. This is thanks to the generosity of our founders, chocolate maker Milton S. Hershey and his wife, Catherine.
The Bix website is here now. WYDCTV.com. Local and national news that keeps you informed and involved. WYDCTV.com. Today's weather, up to date and in your town. WYDCTV.com. Sports news, local events, and health stories that affect you. WYDCTV.com. The Big Fox website. Your news here now. WYDCTV.com.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio. Let's go to some viewer comments. So the left is now talking to two-dimensional cutouts. Apparently they can't get anyone else to listen. Yeah, that's it. Well, again, it's all a stunt, a political stunt. And I had heard rumors that it was happening here locally as well, not just with Claudia Tenney. So this does not surprise me. It surprises me that the media gave it such a, I think, gave it so much biased coverage. Tenney, no-show at packed Oswego Town Hall. That's like saying she's a no-show if I invite her to the studio. I mean, it's not something that she approved. It's not something she held. It was held by a far-left organization. So why would she attend? But to present it in a way that she almost held it herself and then just didn't show up, I think is disingenuous, and I think the media is showing their true colors there. But I also think it's a prime example of why, if they're booing and yelling at a cardboard cutout, maybe it is not a good idea to hold a town hall if you're a Republican, unless you don't mind negative news coverage. Comment from a different viewer. 6 women are going on SpaceX. And one of them is Gayle King, who always cuts down Trump. Yes, I know. I saw the coverage of that. It's Lauren Sanchez's, which is, I think, isn't that Elon Musk's, Jeff Bezos's bride-to-be, I think. So it's Lauren Sanchez and her guests. It's a crew of 6 women. Amanda Nguyen, a civil rights activist who will become the first Vietnamese woman to fly in space. The CBS Morning co-host Gayle King, the pop star Katy Perry, film producer Corinne Flynn, entrepreneur and former NASA rocket scientist Asia Bowie, and Sanchez, as I mentioned. A journalist and philanthropist. All right, so there you go. Yes, that's going to be a big news story today, because I think it takes off today, right? Comment from a different viewer. Nope, no taxes. I'm retired. Thank God. Yes, good for you. That was to the question that's on WYDCTV.com. The question of the day is, have you filed your taxes? Because, of course, they are due tomorrow. What was Ronald Reagan's great quote? Republicans believe that every day is July 4th. Democrats want every day to be April 15th. All right. So on the local front, we're going to talk about some New York State issues. There's been a lot of talk about the Real ID at the New York State level. And our friend Steve Sprague writes in the Hornell Sun, and I've been talking a lot about the Hornell Sun. They've been doing a great job. It's hornellsun.com. It's not just Hornell News. It's kind of regional. They do a wonderful job and some great op-eds like this one. This is by our friend Steve Sprague, who was on the program not all that long ago talking about the charter. But he said, no, we don't want to know you're a cat lover or an amateur astrologer. The real ID you're now reading about is just a way to ensure you are who they say, or you are who you say you are, at least for security purposes. I am now retired from almost 20 years at the Transportation Security Administration, TSA, headquarters, but I didn't check passengers at the airport gates. My focus was on highway security, bridges, roads, truck, and bus security, dangerous hazmat control, driver licensing. It was in that capacity I participated as a TSA rep in the DHS rulemaking team that created the rules for Real ID, and why I'd like to help my neighbors understand the purpose and its connection in your driver's license. Real ID was passed by Congress in 2005 as just one of the many laws cascading from the events of 9/11. That tragedy made it crystal clear that America needs to know and be able to confidently investigate virtually every person who wants access to security-sensitive areas. That starts with boarding aircrafts, but extends to certain federal areas and agencies, including federal courthouses, nuclear power plants, and others. The problem was obvious at the time. What identification assures us the name you give us is the one you were born with, the one you decide to use on your library card, or one you made up to get you in a bar in college? The answer was pretty obvious. Your state driver's license is the nation's most common breeder document. It's the one most often used to sign up for other things. More importantly, it's government administered under standards commonly used in all 50 states and U.S. territories. As such, the rules for Real ID were shaped with every state licensing agency as an option they could offer to licensed applicants. If they never plan to fly commercially or access any federal building other than the Smithsonian museums, you don't need a Real ID compliant license. If, however, you want the greatest access, even just in case, the compliant license is your easiest path. After May the 7th, your state license won't by itself get you on a plane. The primary alternative is a current passport, since you need such thing as a birth certificate or equivalent to get that. There are, by the way, an estimated 14,000 agencies and sources for birth certificates in this country. As such, your passport is verified proof you've passed that test. If you plan to take your passport to the licensing office, make certain it hasn't expired. Another obvious problem for us when we worked on the rules was the reality that not everyone has the equivalent to a birth certificate. Despite the last 2 decades of everything online, there are still places in America where bureaucracy hasn't bothered to care about such things. That's even more prominent in the case of immigrants, especially from third world countries or bad guys crossing the borders. In some cases, the establishment of a consistent identity has to start somewhere. It might be a temporary immigration card issued at the border while you seek a visa or worker papers. But from that moment on, Real ID demands that your identity can't change unless it's done through a lawful and trackable process. Real ID is not intended to be a national identification card or a slippery way to discover how many essays you copied in high school. Its sole purpose is to establish once and for all who you are if you encounter federally identified secure areas. Real ID, by the way, also opened the door to enhanced driver licenses for states like New York and Arizona, where crossing international borders are common, everyday activities. If you're a Tim Horton addict or a Toronto Raptors fan, you can use your license without carrying your passport everywhere. Not all states offer enhanced licenses. Similarly, not all states require the same set of documents when you apply for your driver's license. Despite my involvement in the creation of the Real ID rules and the fact that I moved back here from Virginia with a Real ID license, when I applied for my New York license, I was told I needed an original Social Security card. I'm old. My original card has probably crumbled somewhere in the dust of 4 careers, a long ago war zone, or a bad night in European, Asian, or Australian bar. I couldn't get the proper license until I got an authentic new card from the Social Security Administration. At the close of this letter, I'll post some links, and he ends up posting some links, and you can find this for yourself at the Hornell Sun. Keep in mind, it's your choice when and how to renew your license, other than its official expiration date. And if nothing else, it's an opportunity to replace that sour picture you've always hated. Much encouraged. So I know we've had a lot of people asking about the Real ID, and I thought that was kind of a unique insider's perspective from somebody that worked at the TSA. So thank you to our good friend Steve Sprague. Okay, when we come back, we're going to talk more New York State issues. We do have quite a few things here about President Trump, obviously, and tariffs, and just a busy weekend again for the president and Republicans. We're going to talk a little bit about that. It started on Friday, I think it was, where Trump would, maybe Thursday, talking about perhaps taxing the rich a little bit more. Mike Johnson over the weekend pushed back on that. We'll be discussing that as well. So stay with us. Man, the show's going fast on this Monday morning edition of Frankly Speaking. As I said, if you're joining us on your spring break, we appreciate it. Please join us all week. Friday is Good Friday. We have Good Friday off here at Big Fox, so I will not be broadcasting live on Friday. There'll be a classic edition of Frankly Speaking, so you can tune in on Friday. But we have almost a full week together. So keep those comments, keep those waves coming in. Are you traveling anywhere for spring break? You're going to go away for a little bit? Or you're staying put? Let me know. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Attention, Elmeron may lead to vision loss.
If you have suffered vision problems after taking Elmeron to treat bladder pain, call the Hearn Law Firm. Elmeron may be responsible for your vision problems, and you may deserve compensation for your injuries.
If you took Elmeron and now have vision problems, call the Hearn Law Firm at 888-308-3866 right now. You could find out if you qualify in less than 2 minutes. Call 888-308-3866 for your free case review.
Advanced robotic surgery is now available in the Southern Tier. With the Da Vinci Surgical System, experienced local surgeons at UR Medicine St. James and Jones Memorial Hospitals can perform minimally invasive procedures with greater precision.
That means less pain, shorter hospital stays, and a faster recovery so you can get back to life sooner.
Trust the expertise of your local surgeons and the most advanced technology for your surgery.
You no longer need to travel for cutting-edge surgical care.
Visit robotics.urmc.edu for more information.
Harder makes it hard to keep your home looking like the work of art you've always envisioned it would be. Culligan softeners reduce hard water buildup and your cleaning time, transforming every drop, every splash, every rinse into the fine art of a long-lasting clean. With a Culligan water softener, revel in the breathtaking beauty of your home, just the way you've always pictured it. Culligan, water you love.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. We're going to dive into New York State issues. First of all, and boy, I find this article unfortunately biased because it raises a really important question, and it's at the Albany Times-Union, and it's by Chris Churchill. He writes, Elise Stefanik will keep on trucking and trumping. And it goes, and it's pretty critical of her, but that's not why I'm reading it. This is why I'm reading it. Donald Trump, meanwhile, says Stefanik will be considered for future administration jobs, which suggests her time in Congress may not be lengthy. And Stefanik, who has never hidden her ambition, told me she's not ruling out possibilities that include a run for governor. Quote, this state is in crisis, she added. Now, considering that, you could wonder whether the North Country will have a representative in Congress fully committed to local needs or whether Stefanik will prioritize national, party, and personal interests. You don't wonder that about any other congressional person. But Stefanik not ruling out a run for governor. Your thoughts on that? Boy, it seems like it couldn't be this time around. Or if so, you'd want her to announce very quickly. Because Mike Lawler is kind of making the moves, but no one has officially announced a run for governor, but at least Stefanik would do a wonderful job as governor. But that is a tough election, but she's not ruling it out. Okay. Now, it says here, Albany Times-Union Capitol reporter Dan Clark says that New York State's budget could be settled this week. He said, this is interesting because we have this gap in the middle of the month that the legislature was supposed to be off. So we're interrupting their 2-week vacation this year so they can come back and try to make some progress on the budget. But it's also different this year because the governor and the legislature seem to have a little bit more tension over policy issues that are in the budget. Criminal justice is a huge issue this year that's really, really important to the legislature. And the governor is trying to push back on them. And that's so it's ruffling a little feather. Well, it's not as she's not pushing back. They're pushing back against her. So they asked him a question. There was conversation this past week about the possibility of lawmakers being paid while the budget is overdue, which would be a change in approach. Where do they leave off? So it's gone nowhere for right now. The Assembly Speaker has a bill that would make sure that they get paid if the budget is late, as you said. We don't really know exactly why he introduced it. It seems more of a member management kind of thing. He wants to make sure his members get paid. Maybe some of them have some concerns around it. So that's probably not going to happen. But there is a different bill that would withhold the governor's salary if the budget is late. That hasn't gone anywhere either. But I would say if one bill is going to move, maybe they both move. Now, we talked about that extensively last week, the audacity of Carl Hastie. Saying that they want to get paid even though they're not doing their job. Now, I think there is a solid argument to say that Governor Hochul shouldn't get paid either. I would agree with that. But to suggest that they should get paid even though they're not doing their job is quite, it's discouraging. It can make you very angry. It's also very embarrassing, I believe, from Hastie. So right now we know the sticking points are discovery. We talked about that. We have a kind of an update on that. But on Thursday, Hochul said there would not be a budget without her policies like changes to the discovery law, mandates on masks and public cell phones and schools. So on discovery, they're just going at each other. There's no resolution. They're on the mask issue. They haven't even gotten to that yet. Discovery is holding literally every other issue up. The only issue that we know that's been really resolved is the bell-to-bell cell phone ban in schools. We don't know exactly what that looks like, but we do know that it's a full-day ban for students. Everything else is still open. Governor Hochul said this week that good things happen in April, seeking to minimize the impact of the late budget. But what are the actual impacts of his spending plan being so late? Again, this is reporter Dan Clark saying, so there's no impact on state government necessarily. A late budget really matters to local governments. So school districts have to be planning their budgets because the school budget votes are in May. So they're trying to figure out right now how much money they're going to get from the state. And if they don't know that, they can't make their budgets. And they have to present a budget to the voters that may be less funding than that they're actually going to get. So maybe you're going to plan on cutting a position that they don't need to plan to cut. It's really throwing everything into this area of uncertainty. He said it's a big question. So you're coming back on Tuesday. So they're all coming back on Tuesday, and they're going to continue negotiations. If I were to guess, I would say either this coming week or the week after. But 2 weeks ago, we had a budget May 3rd. Or 2 years ago, we had a budget May 3rd. So there's plenty of time to figure it out. It really just depends on how much progress they make over the next couple of days. So they're cutting their vacations short, returning to Albany. Could this be the week that we get a budget? Ex-New York governor, you remember this name, George Pataki, is praising Kathy Hochul for holding up the budget. It's easy at this point to say, oh, Governor Hochul, she hasn't passed the budget. Isn't that awful? In my view, she's doing the right thing, standing up for the safety of all New Yorkers, said George Pataki. Now, you know, Pataki was governor of New York from 1995 to 2006. And he talked specifically about the pre-trial discovery law that's holding this up and that she is standing, willing to fight, allegedly. Pataki said what Hochul is fighting for is changing some of the ridiculous pro-criminal reforms that the legislators rammed through and Cuomo signed into law when he was governor. And I would say it does change it, but it's very minuscule. But it is a step in the right direction. I'm not going to knock it, but it's not as if it's a complete change to like no bail or the HALT Act or something like that. It's really just a minor change in the discovery. Hochul is trying to make the discovery law fair so prosecutors can hold violent criminals accountable, and she is not budging, said Pataki. She is saying to the legislature, either you pass this change intact or I'm not going to sign the budget. This is exactly what she should be doing. He said it's easy to pass a budget if the governor caves into lawmakers and gives them everything they want, more spending and pro-criminal laws. Quote, but if you have the courage to stand up and take the heat, then you can make their changes, the changes that New Yorkers need right now in this budget fight. Governor Hochul is doing that, and I applaud her for it. Governor Pataki praising Kathy Hochul for standing strong. But Discovery is a key issue holding up the budget talks. We're going to talk a little bit more about it. I see, Ken sent in his weekend roundup, his Sunday shows that he watched. He gave us his rundown. Oh, wow. Quite a bit there. So we're going to talk about that from Ken in a little bit. So you'll make sure that you stay tuned for that. We do have not a ton of New York State issues, but quite a few that I think we need to get to. And then we're going to talk about the federal level. So stay with us. When we come back, we'll read what Ken had to say about the Sunday morning talk shows. When we come back, this is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Hustling plus overbooked plus bustling plus cleaning overlooked. It all adds up. With Mary Maid's professional cleaning services, you'll have one less thing to worry about. Mary Maid's. Relax. It's done. Plus too busy plus bustling plus in a tizzy. It all adds up. With Mary Maid's professional cleaning services, you'll have one less thing to worry about. Mary Maid's. Relax. It's done.
Will Tar has earned a reputation for being a straight shooter.
Because I am a straight shooter.
For being honest.
Here's what we're willing to pay.
Because I am honest.
For winning a lot.
Because we win a lot.
If you've been injured in a motor vehicle accident, it matters who you hire. It matters in the experience as well as the results. Call William Mattar. Visit WilliamMattar.com.
Children learn from our behaviors. They learn what is okay from the adults they see. If you're a distracted driver, chances are they will be too. What kind of driver?
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio right here on Market Street. All right, Ken is kind enough to send in his recap of what he watched on the Sunday morning shows. We appreciate it, Ken. You're a glutton for punishment. Meet the Depressed with Kristen Welker. She interviewed Peter Navarro. He explained how tariffs work and that tariffs are a way to get America on better footing to negotiate non-tariff monetary policies in the world. Ray Dalio from Bridgewater Financial said Trump's policies are pushing the country to worse than a recession. The value of money will decrease dramatically. There'll be non-democratic internal conflict, and there'll be external conflict leading to war. They ended the interview by hawking his new book. Spartacus, Cory Booker, said tariffs are bad for America. They're costing Americans money and jobs. America can't trust Trump. He is pushing Japan to China. The Republican Congress is spineless. He's defying court orders. There is no due process for the people in our country. Spartacus wouldn't answer Welker on if Harris should run again. He pivoted to Trump, giving tax cuts to the wealthy and putting the country in crisis. The panel, as always, did their job bashing Trump and tried to explain why Gretchen Whitmer covered her face in an Oval Office picture. Oh, that she is getting mocked and ridiculed for that. Yes, she used her notebook or her folder to cover her face in that picture in the White House. Very childish, very immature. We may talk about that a little bit later on. On This Week with George Snuffleupagus with Jonathan Karl, Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, talked about the plans on tariffs and that they will help to bring essential jobs back to America. Karl worked fruitlessly to get Lutnick to say something bad about tariffs, that they are unconstitutional and hurting the dollar. Pocahontas, meaning Elizabeth Warren, said there is no tariff policy, it's just chaos and corruption. Congress needs to stop Trump instead of bowing down to him. We are heading toward a recession. She said that when Democrats wanted tariffs, they were a good tool. Trump's tariffs are bad. Trump cares about his wealthy friends and himself and doesn't care about people or America. To Face the Nation with Margaret Brennan, Republican Assemblyman Jamison Greer discussed tariffs. Brennan tried without luck to get him to say that tariffs are bad for America. Neil Kaskari, chairman of the Federal Reserve Bank of Minneapolis, said the economy was good in the first quarter and the tariffs have been a hit to consumer confidence. The Fed will keep on top of the economy and adjust rates as needed. Brennan tried to get him to say that the sky is falling, but he didn't. Anthony Salvanto of CBS News stated how bad the economy is and said how it is Trump's economy. Yeah, isn't that interesting? It's Trump's economy after, 3 months? 4 months. Democrat Ro Khanna said Trump is breaking the law by taking over land on the Texas-Mexico border and using the military for domestic border issues. He said the president overstepped his authority to put bombers in place near Iran, and he needs congressional approval to use force against Iran. Peter Marks, MD, who was fired from the FDA, Brennan worked on getting him to say RFK Jr. is wrong, on saying that the government shouldn't be forcing the people to get vaccinated. He said Kennedy's messaging was wrong, but stopped short of saying vaccinations should be mandated. He did say Kennedy was wrong for giving false hope on discovering the cause for autism this year. This will be my last recap of the Sunday shows unless something really earth-shaking or unexpected happens. The shows are so predictable that I can forecast for your viewers the messaging of all the future Sunday shows. All 3 shows will continue to work to bash Trump and the Republicans on any issue that they are associated with, and will work as hard as possible to propagandize the sheeple on the crisis, creating chaotic, treasonous, unconstitutional, and undemocratic actions of the Trump administration, while they praise the Democrats for anything that they do or say. Ken, I am shocked you made it this long, so absolutely I can't blame you for not watching the Sunday shows in the future. They are predictable. It's kind of like, if you recall, when Biden was still in office, and we kept saying, it's so easy when he gives a State of the Union, it's going to be one of the best speeches he's ever given, or maybe one of the best presidential speeches ever. Or we know that on the shows, they say, no, he's sharp as a tack. It's the same kind of thing. They are going to attack Trump on every single issue, and they find tariffs to be an easy one for them. They think that they can scare the American people, that it's going to cost them, and that, yes, this is all now Trump's economy. It has nothing to do with the failures of the Biden administration. So thank you, Ken, for doing the due diligence for all these weeks, but I can't blame you for putting off the Sunday shows for a while until something earth-shaking happens. Let's take our last break of hour number 1. Keep those comments coming in. Boy, we are moving fast. Thank you to everybody who joined us and are joining us. Yeah, we got a lot of people. You can tell spring is in the air. So many people walking by, out for a walk, waving to us, but getting a lot of waves online as well. If you're new to the program, that number on the bottom of the screen, you can feel free to reach out anytime and weigh in on the topics of the day, or to send a wave. Also, we're asking the question today, and you can go to WYDCTV.com and select on the question of the day, have you filed your taxes? As we know, tomorrow is tax day. Have you filed your taxes? That's the big question of the day. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call today.
You don't have to go to the gym? The health club is not an option? Come to Hesselson today and see why swim spas and fitness systems can fit into anyone's yard and budget. 12-foot, 14-foot, 15-foot, 18-foot dual temperature hot tub and swim spas are all on display in Hesselson's indoor and outdoor showroom. Try before you buy. 0% interest-free financing options are available on every Hesselson swim spa. Swim and exercise year-round and start making every day better. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
When you're on, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio, wrapping up our number 1. Comment from a viewer: does anyone watch that garbage besides Ken? Ken may be their biggest ratings booster. Yes, I don't know. I will say during the election season, the campaign season, I was so impressed with J.D. Vance and with Tom Cotton and Mike Johnson, and they were making the rounds at that time, giving a lot of interviews. That was about the only time I've ever consistently watched them, and that was more to see just how amazing of a job J.D. Vance would do when he was getting so much pushback. And that one thing that really gets on my nerves when you watch it and they're interviewing a Republican is the condescension, well, you do know that. They'll say that to a J.D. Vance or a Mike Johnson. Well, you do know that tariffs are bad. It's always a loaded way to try to make them. It's just condescending. It's one of the reasons why Democrats lost in such a big fashion in November, because of the lecturing, the condescension. Back to New York State issues quickly. This is coming out of Albany. Governor Kathy Hochul's attempt to overhaul a costly Medicaid program is leaving home care workers without pay and vulnerable people in jeopardy. It's gotten so bad that a federal court has had to step in to try and mitigate the situation. A last-minute court intervention by nonprofit independent living center groups resulted in an agreement by the state to extend timelines for aides and consumers in the Consumer-Directed Personal Assistance Program to work their way through the beleaguered registration process with the state's new hand-picked firm. Quote, the state needs to take action immediately. At this point, most people have been negotiating with their workers to get assistance during this crisis, so we haven't yet seen people go to emergency rooms. Brooke Erickson, vice president for this program, wrote in a statement. One aide, Tara Murphy, told reporters Friday that she and her consumers have faced issues registering with Public Partnership LLC, the new handpicked firm in charge of paying aides, and that she received a pay stub for $0 last week for completing a training. I wasn't paid by PPL this week. I don't know if I'm going to be paid by PPL, Murphy said. Another 30-year recipient in the program told the Post 2 of his 3 aides weren't paid for the correct hours last week. So this is a real mess. The lawsuit has also drawn the attention of federal prosecutors with the Consumer Protection Branch of the U.S. Department of Justice, who wrote in a statement to the court indicating they're keeping an eye on the situation. Quote, our much-needed reforms are putting an end to years of runaway bureaucratic spending. This transition ensures that workers who submit time cards in compliance with program rules will be paid. We've made great progress, as hundreds of thousands of consumers have access to services they rely on, and personal assistants are registered and logging hours with PPL and receiving their first payments from PPL, Health Commissioner Jim McDonald said. So another mess in Albany. Also, your thoughts on this, I'm going to read it a little bit more when we come back in the next hour. But the editorial board at Buffalo News says that New York education officials are right to resist the federal demands. Now, right now, we see what's happening with Maine. So I don't know if this is the right decision from New York. You've got Governor Hochul kind of poking at Trump. And in this case, the education officials in New York poking against Trump. Their budgets rely heavily on the federal government. So is that the best position to put yourself in? We'll ask that question in the next hour, so feel free to weigh in. Thank you to everybody who are on their spring break that don't always get a chance to tune in to Frankly Speaking. Well, thank you for tuning in this morning, going anywhere for spring break. I'd love to hear from you. We are going to get to the national scene, a couple things here about DOGE, about tariffs, international issues as well. As we talked about in the top of the hour, someone has been arrested in the arson attack on Josh Shapiro, Governor Josh Shapiro's home in Pennsylvania. So we got a lot to cover in the next hour. Stay with us. Just getting warmed up. 1 hour left together. This is Frankly Speaking.
Is it time for your next oil change? Are you too busy to do it yourself? Let the professionals at Quick Lube do it for you. With 2 locations better to serve you, Quick Lube makes it easy. Get your oil and filter changed and never leave the comfort of your vehicle. No appointment is needed. Just drive up and let Quick Lube do the rest. Keep your motor humming with Quick Lube on South Main Street in Elmira and Chemung Street in Horsehead.
It's spring and Bath Planet has one question for you. Do you feel lucky? Well, do ya? Bath Planet is excited to announce the Dream Bath Giveaway 5. In the past 2 years, we have given away 4 brand new Dream Baths, and now it's your turn. The winner will be able to design their own bath or shower, complete with hundreds of color and pattern options, multiple shelf styles, and matching safety features. It's the Dream Bath Giveaway 5. Enter now by scanning the QR code or stopping by either of our 2 locations.
I invite you to discover what makes our school community so special, including the fact that everything, top-notch education, housing, healthcare, food, clothing, technology, and much more is provided to our students at no cost to our families. This is thanks to the generosity of our founders, chocolate maker Milton S. Hershey and his wife, Catherine.
Hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking as we broadcast live and proudly from the Hesselson studio here on historic Market Street, right in the heart of the Gaffer District. Thank you for joining us. We were talking about some New York State issues. We do have a lot to get to about President Trump from over the weekend. But as I mentioned, the editorial board at the Buffalo News says good for him in refusing to go along with the demand from the federal education officials. Daniel Morton Bentley, counsel and deputy commissioner for legal affairs at New York State's Education Department, correctly pointed out that, quote, there are no federal or state laws prohibiting the principles of DEI. Federal officials had issued a memo to state education departments across the U.S. asking them to confirm the elimination of all programs that promote diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, citing, among other regulations, Title VI of the Civil Rights Act, which prohibits discrimination on the basis of race, color, or national origin in programs receiving federal funds. In refusing to submit any such confirmation, Morton Bentley also noted that the federal government has not identified how DEI violates civil rights protections and stated that the New York State Education Department had already certified its compliance with Title VI. It's difficult to see, just from a common sense perspective, how a policy that promotes inclusion and equity would be at odds with a policy prohibiting discrimination. That's ignoring what DEI has accomplished then. The State School Boards Association defines DEI as to foster positive educational experiences for all students and eliminate barriers that limit a student's chance to succeed. DEI policies are put into place to ensure all students have equal educational opportunities. That doesn't sound like discrimination. So anyway, you can find this for yourself at Empire Report. But even so, New York and other states are to be commended for refusing to cave to unnecessary and possibly illegal demands from Washington. Well, to kind of piggyback, and we're going to get back to New York on this, but you know, if they're saying good on New York, well, a federal judge has ordered the USDA to unfreeze funding to Maine as trans athletes' dispute continues. A federal judge on Friday ordered President Donald Trump's U.S. Department of Agriculture to unfreeze federal funding to Maine as the administration continues to battle the Democrat-run state over transgender athletes. District Court Judge John Woodcock issued a temporary restraining order in the case brought by Maine against USDA, although he noted his order does not weigh in on the larger dispute surrounding Maine allowing trans-identifying males on female sports teams and in female spaces, according to the Associated Press. But as they fight that fight, and we know the Trump administration has been prepared for these type of lawsuits, the DOE, Department of Education, announced that it has begun the process of cutting federal K-12 funding to Maine as the Democrat-run state continues to allow transgender identifying males on female sports teams. DOE is also referring its Title IX investigation of the state of the Department of Justice to further enforcement actions. DOE said its actions are a direct result of the Maine Department of Education continued refusal to comply with Title IX, which prohibits discrimination based on sex in education programs and activities receiving federal funding. Acting Assistant Secretary for Civil Rights Craig Traynor said the department has given Maine every opportunity to come into compliance with Title IX, but the state's leaders have stubbornly refused to do so, choosing instead to prioritize an extremist ideological agenda over the students' safety, privacy, and dignity. They continued, the Maine Department of Education will now have to defend its discriminatory practices before a department administrative law judge and in a federal court against the Justice Department. Governor Mills would have done well to adhere to the wisdom embedded in the old idiom, be careful what you wish for. Now she will see the Trump administration in court. All right, just piggybacking. Back to New York, Andrew Cuomo called Donald Trump a bully over the weekend. Some have also said, talk about the pot calling the kettle black. Ex-Governor Andrew Cuomo vowed he will stand up to bully President Trump. He will stand up to bully President Trump if he's elected New York City mayor. Cuomo, during a speech at the First Corinthian Baptist Church in Harlem, said he sparred with Trump during the COVID-19 crisis. Quote, we almost created issues to fight about. It became so commonplace, but we fought about vaccines, we fought about federal resources, we fought about ships, we fought about everything. And you know what I learned about Mr. Trump? He is a bully. And you know what you do with a bully? You stand up to a bully. When they put their finger in your chest, you keep forward, you don't step back. We're going to stand up to the bully. Now, during his first term as president, Trump called Cuomo a bully thug. Cuomo was in Harlem to discuss his 500,000 units over 10 years housing plan, 2/3 of which would be affordable to people with low and moderate incomes. He said he would incentivize faith-based groups to use their surplus property for housing. State Senator George Borrello said, hello, pot, meet kettle, in reference to Cuomo calling Trump a bully. Borrello said Cuomo was the biggest bully in Albany for years. State Republican Party Chairman Ed Cox said, talk about a bully, Cuomo is the original thug in New York politics. Ron Kim, who was the first Democrat, well, don't quote me on that, but I believe he was the first Democrat to come out in opposition to Cuomo and said that he should resign. Ron Kim had family members, if I'm not mistaken, that had passed away due to the nursing home edict during COVID. Ron Kim claimed a spitting mad Cuomo back in 2021 threatened to destroy him if he didn't help contain the damage over the Cuomo administration's alleged cover-up of nursing home residents' COVID-19 deaths. Kim, whose uncle died of the coronavirus in a nursing home, said Cuomo told him in a heated phone interview, you have not seen my wrath. A rep for city comptroller and mayoral candidate Brad Lander said Cuomo and Trump are two peas in a pod. New Yorkers know that Andrew Cuomo and Donald Trump are longtime friends who share a history of corruption, daddy issues, and sexual harassment allegations. Okay. So Governor Cuomo, who made one of the most disastrous, most tragic decisions in all of COVID, which was to put COVID-positive patients in nursing homes, killing our most vulnerable. He says that Donald Trump is a bully. Also, speaking of bullies, Chris Churchill, who we mentioned earlier, has a piece at the Olean Times-Herald, and he said, New York suddenly wants to be mean to Elon Musk. I'd say there were more than 100 protesters in attendance at the Colony Town Hall. And given that the miserable weather, we can certainly credit the group for its hardiness and determination. And were they rough on Musk, the oddball taking a chainsaw to the federal workforce at the behest of Trump? They held signs that said Musk should be deported, suggested he was a Nazi, and perhaps meanest of all, called him a muskrat. Well, I don't figure anyone will cry for him. The world's richest man can take the heat. Musk certainly dishes it out. The question sparking the protest was whether the automaker Tesla, which of course is one of Musk's companies, should be granted permission for a showroom along Central Avenue at the site of the former Maywood School. The protesters said no, which is their right, but so do some New York lawmakers, which is where things get dicey. In 2014, New York granted Tesla a special privilege, despite fierce objection from the state's existing auto dealers. It said Musk could eschew the traditional franchise model and operate 5 locations that sell Teslas directly to consumers. No other automaker has such a deal in New York. However, lawmakers wanted to support Tesla and its EV cars, and they wanted to please the environmentalists lobbying on the company's behalf. What could go wrong? The fact that Musk was a Democrat donor at the time he gave to Clinton and Obama certainly didn't hurt his cause. Back then, Musk was something of a progressive hero. And his cars were cool, status symbols for the virtuous, wealthy. Things have changed, of course. After voting for Joe Biden in 2020, Musk migrated rightward to a full-on embrace of Trump. And his role as head of the Department of Government Efficiency has made him a Democratic supervillain. Right on cue, some state Democrats are targeting Musk and his business. As Jimmy Vielkind of Gotham has detailed, Democrats are rethinking Musk-scented goodies, included massive subsidies given for a state-owned Buffalo factory leased to Solar City, acquired by Tesla in 2016. One proposed bill seeks to possibly claw back funding on the claim that Musk is, quote, benefiting from one of the biggest and worst government subsidy deals in the history of New York. Meanwhile, State Senator Pat Fahey and Assemblywoman Gabrielle Ramiro, both Democrats from Albany, have introduced a bill that would strip Musk and Tesla of the 5 direct sales permits and give them to another maker of EV vehicles. Why? Quote, because it's Elon Musk and we want to go after him. This guy is taking a wrecking ball to the economy. That's what Fahey said. So never mind the jobs it brings to Colony. Never mind your environmentalist agenda. None of that matters anymore because they hate Trump and they hate Musk. The bill is essentially about politics then, which makes it similar to the efforts of Florida Governor Ron DeSantis to strip Disney of state-granted privileges because the Republican didn't like that woke Disney opposed his controversial Parental Rights and Education Act. I hope it's stating the obvious to say that this sort of retribution by legislation is not how government should operate, but it's increasingly common. Fahey, who spoke at Tuesday's rally and urged Colony to reject the proposed showroom, argues that Musk and Tesla have a monopoly, and the company has gamed the system by opening showrooms that amplify its allowed direct sales locations. Fair enough, but Musk has a monopoly because New York gave him one, and Fahey fully admits that the arrangement is being scrutinized only because of Musk's role in the Trump administration. Of course, New York could end the monopoly simply by giving additional direct sales permits to other automakers. Instead, Fahey and Romero's bill seeks to take Tesla's permits away. It's a punishment. It's revenge. Here's a question. How did Elon Musk get so rich? Sure, his vast wealth came in no small part because he was innovative, entrepreneurial, and perhaps even brilliant. But he also benefited from a rotten system in which politicians in New York and elsewhere hand out goodies to their preferred billionaires, usually donors, at the expense of smaller businesses. If Musk is a plutocrat, then he's a monster that New York helped to create. There's a lesson there, but I doubt New York politicians will heed it. Instead, they'll hand perks and subsidies to the next tycoon with a checkbook, only to wonder why the rich keep getting richer. So not 100% what my take would be, but I thought an important message nonetheless. Okay. Oh, by the way, I know very often we talk about California, what California does. We emulate here in New York, and it's disastrous for New York. We see a failed bill in California and say, hey, we should do that. Well, keep this in mind. Last week, we talked a lot about gun rights issues. This is coming from Colorado. And if the reason we brought up gun rights issues is because Governor Hochul signed a bill into law that says if you use your credit card to buy ammunition, it puts it in a different category. That means that it can track whether or not you are, quote unquote, stockpiling ammunition. And I don't know what the punishment is. I don't know what their definition of stockpiling is. They did not say that, if there is any punishment. So it was... We talked about it in the larger scheme of things of it being an attack on gun rights, because you could be using all those shells, all the ammunition, so you could essentially be on this watch list, if you will, for stockpiling ammunition and not have any ammunition on you at all. But this is coming out of Colorado. We could see this happening in New York. When you see a bad bill, always pay attention to it because it normally comes to New York sooner rather than later. First of its kind legislation could reshape national gun control debates, as gun rights groups say it will ban America's most popular firearms. Again, this coming out of Colorado. They have taken the unprecedented approach to a decades-old dilemma for gun control advocates, limiting the firepower of the popular AR-15 rifle. Colorado Governor Jared Polis, a Democrat, this past week signed one of the strictest gun laws in the nation. The law prohibits the sale of a range of firearms with detachable magazines, a feature on AR-15 rifles and many other modern firearms. Coloradans would only be allowed to purchase such guns if they apply for a special license and receive safety training. Gun control groups hail the measure as a bold step towards reducing the death toll in mass shootings, because attackers won't be able to easily reload when they run out of bullets. Gun rights groups say the law is overly restrictive and are preparing lawsuits because the measure bans some of the most popular rifles on the market as they are now configured. The bill's chief sponsor, Democrat State Senator Tom Sullivan, said the new law was needed because assault weapons bans, long touted by Democrats and gun control groups as an answer to the nation's mass shooting scourge, don't work. We need to find something else. It's the number of bullets that puts the mass in mass shooting. So we already have some of these bans into effect, but just bringing that up as a topic that we talked about last week. All right, we got to take a short break. Running a little bit late. Stay with us. If you're joining us on your spring break, we appreciate it. Thank you for being with us this morning. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking. Stay with us.
Attention, Elmeron may lead to vision loss.
If you have suffered vision problems after taking Elmeron to treat bladder pain, call the Hearn Law Firm. Elmeron may be responsible for your vision problems. and you may deserve compensation for your injuries.
If you took Elmaron and now have vision problems, call the Hearn Law Firm at 888-308-3866 right now. You could find out if you qualify in less than 2 minutes. Call 888-308-3866 for your free case review.
Frankly, Roof Cam is brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact Boss Security for all your business and home security needs.
When you think Hesselson's. Hesselson's has the largest selection of work boots in the area. Composite and steel toe boots, Met Guard boots, soft toe boots, and hikers, duty and western boots all in one location. Hesselson's, Elmira Heights. Hesselson's has men's and ladies boots in all sizes and widths. Choose from the largest names in the industry. Danner, Carolina, Timberland Pro, Keene Utility, Thorogood, Area, and Georgia, to name just a few. Hesselson's has been locally owned and operated since 1955, so when you think local service and great selection, think Hesselson's. Remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
High school students, the Elmira Elks College Fair will be happening April 30th from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Elmira Elks Lodge, located at 300 East Gray Street in downtown Elmira. It's open and free to the public. There's free parking. There'll also be mascots as you come in. There'll be up to 50 colleges, representatives from technical schools, universities, in-state, out-of-state, 2-year, 4-year, public and private schools. If you're looking to transfer, this will be the college fair for you. Also a chance to win an instant scholarship drawing at 8 o'clock. Come down to the Elmira Elks College Fair on April 30th from 6 to 8 p.m.
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. And how can we help like that in our small businesses, not to sound cliche, but are the backbone of our community? Let's talk about we. Thanks, as always, to you, the viewers, for sending in your texts and the Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio. Let's go to some viewer comments. Ken writes back in, and he says, a small correction. I will continue to watch the Sunday shows, but I am putting myself in a 12-step program to limit my intake of watching Democrats and liberals. The first step is to not write about their detached ideas and propaganda. The next 10 steps will include reductions in viewing and reading, about what the Democrats are saying, all focused on regaining my mental health and reestablishing lost relationships. The last step will be a lifelong commitment to not get excited about anything that the Democrats and the legacy media try to push on the nation, while simultaneously trying to understand why the low information sheeple believe what they hear them say. Thank you, Ken. Well, good luck with your 12-step program. It sounds like a Herculean task. But we'll be rooting you on along the way. Comment from Jack. He says it looks like the Democrats in New York are practicing the retribution that they said that Republicans would do to them. Exactly. And specifically on Elon Musk. The irony of them fighting against EV vehicles and Tesla specifically is just, it's such a prime example of this kind of hypocrisy, this political hypocrisy, and that these issues they claim to care so much about mean nothing when it comes, at the end of the day, down to politics, when it means attacking Trump or Musk. Now, I think, Ken mentioned earlier that Cory Booker was on Meet the Press. Did you see that Cory Booker did not rule out a 2028 presidential run? Now, Cory Booker's always been very full of himself. He's always thought something about running for president. That's always been kind of the worst kept secret. Well, he gives that 25-hour and 5-minute speech, which, again, accomplished absolutely nothing. I still don't understand why the left is praising this. It almost seems like the Democrat Party in a nutshell, which is a lot of talk, no success. But he's seen his star rise a little bit, so he's capitalizing on it. Kristen Welker said, what should the message from Democrats be right now? Cory Booker said, we should be focusing on the American people. This is not about party, left or right. It's about right or wrong. We are in a moral moment right now in our country with attacks on Medicaid and tax cuts to the wealthiest in the country. And this is not who we are. We have to fight to keep American jobs, cost, economic security, and American health care. So Welker said, Senator, yes or no, are you considering a run in 2028? Booker said, I'm focused on today and my re-election in 2026. I've already announced to the people of New Jersey. I'm hoping they'll allow me to. I will be the senator for another 6 years. Let's be clear. I'm proud of the work we've done. There's been no senator with a better record of bringing resources back to the state of New Jersey. I'm focused on the now and working to defend folks and, God willing, be reelected in 2026. Welker saying, I don't hear you ruling it out. So do you think Cory Booker will be running in 2028? Also, speaking of people that they're looking at for presidential candidates, Gretchen Whitmer. We mentioned this earlier on in the program. Gretchen Whitmer was mocked over the weekend after she was captured hiding her face behind a stack of binders to avoid being seen standing in the Oval Office when President Trump spoke to the press. Keith Olbermann, the far-left Keith Olbermann, said, it's rare when you get a shot of the exact moment a politician's career ends, but there you go. Now, just the fact that she met with the president, which I would think most people say that's probably a good idea, no matter what level of politics you're in, to help your state, to help your constituents, but not in this case, because it did not show, or show that she's not a quote-unquote part of the resistance. So people have said it's the end of her career, like Keith Olbermann right there, not just because of the photo, but just the fact that she met with Trump. That is being seen as not doing enough, that means that you're not a part of the resistance. We saw a lot of criticism of her. Her star was on the rise and came crashing down when she met with the president because the far left that is in control of the Democrat Party now took that, for lack of a better word, personally took it as a sign that she is not a fighter against Trump. Now, Whitmer was in Washington to discuss issues including tariffs and a recent ice storm, which Whitmer has since asked for a presidential emergency declaration. Now, critics viewed the viral photo as Whitmer's attempt to not be associated with Trump, even though she attended that meeting. Gretchen Whitmer hiding behind her files in the White House is one of the funniest things I've ever seen, said one Twitter user. This is what my 2-year-old does. Whitmer covering her face is a perfect metaphor for the Democrat Party, said another. One person suggesting that President Trump broke Governor Whitmer. Yes, it did look so childish, so immature. Liz Plank, a liberal podcast host, said, I need help understanding Democrat thinking. Gretchen Whitmer was embarrassed to be photographed standing in the Oval Office, but not embarrassed enough to do this. And that was in that awkward video of her taking almost like a communion from a liberal host with a Dorito. Do you remember that? On Wednesday, Whitmer stood near the Resolute desk alongside Michigan State House Speaker Matt Hall and several other Trump cabinet secretaries. During the appearance, Trump ordered the Justice Department to launch investigations of anonymous author Miles Taylor for leaking during the first term and into former cybersecurity official Christopher Krebs for attesting to the legitimacy of the 2020 election. Trump acknowledged Whitmer's presence, praising her for an excellent job in Michigan. We're honored to have Gretchen Whitmer from Michigan, great state of Michigan. And she's really done an excellent job, very good person. As Audie Cornish, and we brought this to you last week, said on CNN, this does not look like the politics of resistance. And that's what the Democrat Party, specifically the far left, is demanding from their politicians, demanding from their representatives, this do something. Remember, that's their slogan, this resistance of do something. So Whitmer made what most people wouldn't think a mistake, trying to get good deals for the people of her state, getting help. You would think that would be an important meeting. But instead, she's receiving pushback from her own party and some saying that is the end of her political career. I will say she did not help herself with the childish hiding behind a folder. That you could have handled that a better way. But since we've now talked about Cory Booker, Gretchen Whitmer, how about this? ESPN host Stephen A. Smith said yesterday that he might not have a choice but to run for president in 2028. If the Democrats fail to produce someone better. The ESPN's First Take host claimed that he's been inundated with requests to compete in a presidential run. He said, quote, I have no choice because I've had elected officials, and I'm not going to give their names, elected officials coming up to me, he said on This Week. I've had folks that got a lot of money, billionaires and others that have talked to me about exploratory committees and things of that nature. I'm not a politician. I've never had a desire to be a politician. Now, despite flirting with a 2028 bid, Smith admitted that he would like to see someone with the necessary experience step up. I would hope somebody else would step up that's more qualified than me. But it has to come down to me. It is something I would consider. Here's the reality. People have walked up to me, including my own pastor, for crying out loud, who has said to me, you don't know what God has planned for you. He added that the pastor told him to respect the people who believe in him. Now, during the 2024 election, Smith voted for Harris, though he later admitted to feeling like a fool because the ex-vice president got the Democrat nod without a primary. I don't like what I'm seeing, meaning from Trump, but I'm not surprised. I mean, this whole tariff war situation is utterly ridiculous. He should have immediately targeted China and not every nation on the planet, for crying out loud. There doesn't appear to be a plan. Let's be very clear about that. But in the end, what you have to applaud them for is trying something. His pet peeve with Democrats is they talk and they talk and they talk, but fail to achieve anything. It's an indictment against a Democrat Party that doesn't have leadership. It doesn't have a vision. And that ties in, this is why I bring it up. He's saying what we just said about Cory Booker. They talk and talk and talk and never achieve anything. That's why I believe the quote-unquote filibuster, which it wasn't really a filibuster, is very indicative of very much a poster for the problem that the Democrat Party finds themselves in. Whoa, we got to take a break. Stay with us. Keep those comments coming in. If you're joining us on your spring break, thank you so much. You're going to be going out of town at all. I know some don't always have a chance to watch us as they get ready in the morning, so it's nice to have you if you are celebrating spring break. Also, this morning we've been asking the questions, have you filed your taxes? You can go to WYDCTV.com, and you can click on the question of the day and, for lack of a better word, vote. Have you filed your taxes here on April 14th, or are you going to wait a little bit longer, as they're due tomorrow? And as I keep mentioning this morning, you may recall President Reagan's famous quote that Republicans feel like every day is July 4th, Democrats feel like every day is April 15th. And I always love that quote. All right, stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Some people who need Social Security disability benefits go to their hearing alone and get turned down. Not every lawyer will appeal a denial after your hearing. I will. I'm Peter Gorton of Lockman & Gorton. I help people win benefits by appealing their denials, including in federal court. But your time to appeal is limited, so call my office now.
Lockman & Gordon, 1-800-698-0567.
This was our last chance to show who our son was. I can't say enough about pre-planning. When you are in those moments, you are not thinking clearly.
We showed up for the remembrance, and we walked in, and we just, wow.
It was arranged perfectly. Yeah. I certainly could not have done that in that moment. So to have those pre-conversations, it's really important.
Visit carpentersphillipsflint.com to learn more about our family-owned funeral homes.
Anyone, anywhere can record crimes as they happen, and we're going to watch them right here.
He just took his car.
With cameras everywhere, you can run, but you can't hide. Watch iCrime.
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. And how can we help like that in our small businesses, not to sound cliche, but are the backbone of our community? Let's talk about we. Thanks, as always, to you, the viewers, for sending in your texts and your voicemails. Now we go to a comment. This is from John in Elmira. Make sure to catch Frankly Speaking only on AM Big Fox News WYDC, or visit our website at WYDC. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. We're going to talk about Hakeem Jeffries in a moment because we were talking about Cory Booker and Gretchen Whitmer and kind of the leaders, if you will, or the faces of the Democrat Party. But before that, just kind of a blast from the past. But today begins the retrial of Sarah Palin's defamation case against the New York Times. It begins today. kind of deja vu, if you will. Palin has the rare opportunity to retry her defamation case against the Times, even though she lost it twice in a 24-hour period in early 2022. Jury selection is slated to begin Monday in a federal court in Manhattan after a judge's misstep in the initial suit opened the door for a retrial. The case was sparked by a 2017 Times editorial that Palin's attorneys argued had accused her of inciting murder 6 years earlier in the shooting in Tucson, Arizona, that killed 6 people and gravely wounded then Representative Gabby Giffords. No proof was ever found suggesting the shooter was motivated by or even knew about the Palin ad cited by the editorial. So that's just kind of a blast from the past. Oh, I see a lot of comments coming in. Sorry, I missed those. I was reading that article. I did not realize that began today. So New York Democrat House Minority Leader, Representative Hakeem Jeffries, posted a video on his official House account attacking Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth as an extremist over book removals at the U.S. Naval Academy and promising to keep the pressure on Hegseth until he is fired from his post. He also, he called him a dumb, blanking individuals. The outrageous Naval Academy book ban targets Maya Angelou and the Holocaust, but excludes Adolf Hitler, the Democrat leader said. This must be reversed immediately. Apparently, for these extremists, racist Nazi ideology and white supremacy is okay. We're going to keep the pressure on these extremists who continue to try to whitewash our history, Jeffrey said. We're going to keep the pressure on until his book ban is reversed and Pete Hegseth is fired. Now, Pete Hegseth says that Hakeem Jeffries calling him dumb is evidence of how far the Democrats have fallen. This was in his response. That's how far they have fallen. It's astonishing, not surprising. Of course, they don't like the fact that we're ripping a DEI out of the military and making it colorblind and merit-based. If their whole strategy is minute-long videos on TikTok to call us names while we secure the southern border, kick out Chinese influence, revive the warrior culture inside our military, that's why they lost in historic fashion to President Trump last time, and their future looks bleak as well. Well, it has really fallen to that level. Hakeem Jeffries is nervous because there was calls for him and Chuck Schumer to step down from their leadership position because they're not doing enough to combat Trump. That's what their own party believes. So now he's putting out these TikTok videos, these short videos. It's really all he has, but he's got to be looking at Cory Booker and saying, well, if he got a lot of credit for really not accomplishing anything, just speaking for a long time, maybe if I speak, the pressure will come off of me. Problem is, Hakeem Jeffries is... I don't think anything that's the speeches I've seen, nothing exceptionally inspirational. But speaking of Pete Hegseth, he secured the first and free passage for U.S. ships in the Panama Canal. This coming out yesterday. He said had one mission on his trip to Panama to secure a deal to get first and free passage for U.S. ships in the Panama Canal. As the secretary and his team flew down from Washington to meet with Panama's leaders, such a deal with Panama was far from certain. While the U.S. has built the canal, we don't need to go through all that. Now it was up to Hegseth to secure U.S. ships' first and free passage through the canal. By all measures, the trip was a resounding success. Hegseth arrived late Monday. I don't want to go through the whole timeline here, but him saying that we have secured the first and free passage for U.S. ships in the Panama Canal. Okay, let's get to the Trump administration here. We are going to take a break in just a moment. Then when we come back, we're going to read your comments. We got a lot of comments coming in. But we talked on this program a lot about how busy Trump's schedule is, how it's remarkable that he can do as much as he does. I mean, I think many of us are tired just watching him. I know on Saturday he was giving answering press questions on Air Force One as he was coming back from the UFC fight where he received a hero's welcome, but long hours from the President of the United States. We're going to talk about that, what that's done to his health, because he had his physical. We also have a couple things here about the Republicans in general, Doge, all that and much more. And as I said, we will be reading your comments when we come back. I don't want you to forget, because this is right around the corner. In the next 2 days is the NYSEG meeting. Kelly Fitzpatrick announced it probably 2 weeks ago, but NYSEG will have a community connections event. It's not a town hall, but they're holding one in Steuben County. And it's April 16th from 4 till 7 p.m. at the Campbell Fire Department. The event is not a town hall and will not include a formal presentation. Instead, it is a chance for NYSEG customers to meet face-to-face with customer service representatives to discuss billing concerns, voice their opinions, and receive direct feedback. So I know many people have taken to this program to talk about their NYSEG bills, and rightfully so. And I know many of you have been waiting for this opportunity in Steuben County. So again, it is on the 16th from 4 to 7 p.m. at the Campbell Fire Hall. All right, let's take that short break. We will be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call today.
Hurry in for fantastic spring savings at GCP Discount Liquors and Wines. Search no more. Crown Royal Blackberry is here and on sale. Normally $34.99. It's on sale for $29.99 a bottle with no bottle limit. Dark Horse Wines, normally $8.99, is on sale for $6.99 a bottle. Save more with a mail-in rebate. $12 off 6 bottles or $24 off a case. GCP Discount Liquors and Wines in Horseheads, the best in service, selection, and price.
Invite you to discover what makes our school community so special, including the fact that everything, top-notch education, housing, healthcare, food, clothing, technology, and much more is provided to our students at no cost to our families. This is thanks to the generosity of our founders, chocolate maker Milton S. Hershey and his wife Catherine.
The Big Fox website is here now. WYDCTV.com. Local and national news that keeps you informed and involved. WYDCTV.com. Today's weather up to date and in your town. WYDCTV.com. Sports news, local events, and health stories that affect you. WYDCTV.com. The Big Fox website. Your news here now. WYDCTV.com.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio here on historic Market Street in the Gafford District. Let's go to some viewer comments. Morning, Frank. Well, good morning. Isn't it funny that the left keeps shrinking as notable Democrats keep showing up at the White House? Thank you, Sergeant Dave. I don't think they're shrinking. I think they realize there's an opportunity there. But then again, Gretchen Whitmer, I guess, regretting it when the cameras, I mean, she had to know she was going to have photos taken in the Oval Office, but covering up her face with her folder, some saying that is the end of her political ambitions. I don't know if that's true or not, but I think for some on the far left, that would be the case because they want a leader in their party that is pushing the resistance. All right, comment from a different viewer. Mark, actually, he writes in, I wonder how many people waited to see if Doge shut down the IRS before paying their taxes. That's a great point. Probably a lot of people delaying, hoping that there would be some huge shakeup or some big news. Or some people just delayed doing their taxes because that's kind of what everybody's known for doing around this time. That's why WYDCTV.com, the question of the day is, have you done your taxes yet? Here on the 14th, as they're due tomorrow. Comment from a different viewer. Since we built the Panama Canal, we should have lifetime free passage through it. Couldn't agree more. It seems like a no-brainer, but that has not been the case. Now, as we had mentioned with Trump's schedule, a new report came out that found that President Donald Trump dwarfs former President Joe Biden in the number of questions he's taken from the media at cabinet meetings. White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt touted the clear distinction between the president as a sign of transparency as she spoke to reporters. As I've said before, and I will say it again today, everyone in this room has access to the most transparent and accessible president in American history. The cabinet meeting yesterday was further proof. Citing a report from the Washington Times, she said President Trump answered nearly 100 questions from the press, all of you, during his first 3 open press cabinet meetings this year. That's nearly 20 times the number answered by Joe Biden in cabinet meetings during his entire 4 years in office. Trump fielded about 20 questions during his third cabinet meeting last week, after taking 55 in the first cabinet meeting of his new term and 15 questions last month, bringing the total to an estimated 90 questions, according to the Washington Times. By contrast, Biden reportedly answered 5 press questions over 9 cabinet meetings in his entire term, in sessions lasting about 5 minutes each. Trump held 25 cabinet meetings in his first term, while then President Barack Obama held 19 in his first 4 years. The last time Biden met with his cabinet, it raised eyebrows. In September, at his first cabinet meeting in almost a year, the president turned the meeting over to his wife, Jill, who was seated at the head of the table, declaring, "It's all yours, kid." So President Trump estimated 90 questions during these cabinet meetings. You undoubtedly heard that Trump's doctor cited his frequent victories in golf events as evidence of the president's excellent health after his White House physical. They sent me, the Office of Communications sent me the actual physical examination results. And I'm not going to read you all the numbers. It's very wonky. But in the summary, it says President Trump remains in excellent health, exhibiting robust cardiac, pulmonary, neurological, and general physical function. His active lifestyle continues to contribute significantly to his well-being. President Trump's days include participation in multiple meetings, public appearances, press availability, and frequent victories in golf events. President Trump exhibits excellent cognitive and physical health and is fully fit to execute the duties of the Commander-in-Chief and head of state. So that was White House physician Sean Barbarella. But that must have made Trump very happy that he pointed to the frequent victories in golf events as evidence of the Commander-in-Chief's excellent health and robust neurological condition. His active lifestyle continues to contribute significantly to his well-being. After getting his physical last Friday, Trump bragged to reporters about acing a cognitive test he was given while throwing shade at Joe Biden. Barbarella claimed Trump scored a normal 30 out of 30. "I felt I was in very good shape, good heart," Trump said. "I took a cognitive test. I don't know what to tell you other than I got every answer right. I think it's a pretty well-known test. I've taken the test 4 times. I've got nothing wrong. That's what the American people want." Biden refused to take it. Kamala refused to take it. It was very interesting. That was one of the many red flags when Biden refused to take the cognitive test. I think a lot of people were concerned when Harris, especially at her age, was not willing to take the cognitive test just to make it a talking point. But Barbarella also said that Trump is 75 inches tall and weighs 224 pounds, suggesting that he's lost a significant amount of weight since his first term in office. Other vital signs look decent. Trump's blood pressure clocked in at 128/74, which is elevated but not yet high blood pressure, per the American Heart Association. His resting heart rate was 62 beats per minute, which is normal. Additionally, Trump is on 2 medications to address his cholesterol, which is optimal, according to Barbarella. His medical history is notable for well-controlled hypercholesterolemia, seasonal allergies, a history of COVID-19 infection, well-managed rosacea. Wow. I'm not going to go through all of these. Since his 2016 campaign, Trump has released numerous glowing health reports from his doctor. Trump has tapped Barbarella as his physician earlier this year. Barbarella is a veteran of the war in Afghanistan who earned a Purple Heart after being badly injured when an improvised explosive device was set off during his first term. Okay, we had mentioned this earlier in the program. Mike Johnson over the weekend did pour cold water on calls for tax hikes on the rich. House Speaker Mike Johnson is pushing back on the prospect of Republicans hiking taxes on the rich to help pay for Trump's big, beautiful agenda package. Despite Trump previously telling Republicans that he is open to a tax increase for the wealthy, Speaker Johnson argued that he'd prefer to find pay-fors elsewhere and underscored that the GOP needs to hustle on finishing the Trump agenda bill due to bond market jitters. "I'm not a big fan of doing that," meaning taxing the wealthy. This was on Fox News' Sunday Morning Futures when asked about ratcheting up taxes on the rich. "We're the Republican Party and we're for tax reduction for everyone. So, I mean, that's a general principle that we always try to abide by. Republicans are staring down a difficult problem to fund Trump's marquee agenda package, which includes tax cuts, stepped-up energy supply, border security, and bolstering defense spending. Fiscal hawks are adamant that the agenda package doesn't add to the deficit, but moderates are skittish about deep cuts to programs like Medicaid, creating a predicament for Johnson, given the slim GOP control of the House and the Senate. Quote, we're going to protect Medicare, Social Security, and Medicaid. At the same time, we have to root out fraud, waste, and abuse. That's Speaker Johnson. About 61% of the roughly $6.75 trillion federal budget is mandatory spending, such as Medicare, Social Security, and Medicaid. Another 13% is interest on the debt. Given that Republicans want to increase defense spending in the agenda package, that leaves less than $1 trillion of annual discretionary spending to cut based on fiscal year 2024 spending levels. So pouring a little cold water on that. Privately, Trump has told Senate Republicans that he is open to jacking up taxes on high-income earners. Trump ally Steve Bannon insisted that Republicans will jack up taxes on the rich, telling Bill Maher that Trump and the MAGA movement will raise taxes on the wealthy. People have different thoughts and theories on how we can solve this perfect equation to get all this done, Speaker Johnson said. I would say just stay tuned. Steve Scalise said, we're not looking for tax increases. We're looking for locking in current rates so there is not a tax increase. So we'll be keeping close on that for Trump's big, beautiful agenda package. All right, we got a couple of things here about DOGE. Speaking of cutting the waste, fraud, and corruption that Speaker Johnson was saying there. Got a couple comments as well, so stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. We will be right back.
This is Alan. He's choosing to gamble on eating cheap gas station sushi. But when he gambles with money, Alan always makes responsible choices, like setting and sticking to his financial limits. Good luck, Alan. We all take risks in life. Just gamble responsibly.
One of the things I like most about being a mortgage loan officer is helping people make dreams come true.
The most satisfying part is seeing people succeed in accomplishing the purchase of a home.
Whether it's refinancing for a lower monthly payment, a lower interest rate, or to tap into your home's equity.
Whether you're buying your first home or looking to refinance, First Heritage will be here to help.
My name is Cindy.
My name is Tracy.
My name is Peter.
My name is Deb.
We are here to guide you.
High school students, the Elmira Elks College Fair will be happening April 30th from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Elmira Elks Lodge, located at 300 East Gray Street in downtown Elmira. It's open and free to the public. There's free parking. There will also be mascots as you come in. There'll be up to 50 colleges, representatives from technical schools, universities, in-state, out-of-state, 2-year, 4-year, public and private schools. If you're looking to transfer, this will be the college fair for you. Also a chance to win an instant scholarship drawing at 8 o'clock. Come down to the Elmira Elks College Fair on April 30th from 6 to 8 p.m.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Comment from a viewer: Biden didn't do a lot of TV time as he didn't want people to see his mental decline. And I gave up watching puppets when I was a kid. Thank you very much. Yeah, I think one of the biggest or most noticeable examples of this is when he turned down the opportunity to pre-record an interview for the Super Bowl. As someone that was running for re-election, that's a no-brainer because that's normally a softball interview. And there's minor exceptions, but that's normally an opportunity to have the whole world essentially see you without very much pushback. And that's when a lot of people, I think even in the Democrat Party, started to say, wait a minute, what's going on here? Why is he hiding in a scenario like that? DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, launched a portal for you, the public, to pitch suggestions for clawing back excessive red tape earlier this month. DOGE collaborated with the Office of Management and Budget and Government Services Administration in developing the regulations.gov/deregulation module for everyday Americans to highlight what they believe is excessive regulation. White House spokeswoman Taylor Rogers said DOGE is combining the administration's goal of adding transparency and slashing waste, fraud, and abuse by offering the American people the unique opportunity to recommend more deregulatory actions. and we talk about Doge.gov quite frequently on this program. This Doge-led effort highlights President Trump's priorities to put the people first and government bureaucrats last. Doge was conceived in part as a blue ribbon commission to aggressively deregulate the federal government. You know all about that. But the portal, kind of a unique way of doing this. Both Trump and Musk have been outspoken critics of excessive government regulations. The new portal encourages users to flag where the regulation is coming from and list a reason why such a rule should be removed. The White House spokesperson didn't immediately respond to a request for comment. I thought they did. I thought they released a statement, but okay. Now, Republicans are fearing this is how the media is operating. We heard from Ken earlier, who kind of recapped the Sunday shows for us, saying that this is kind of the direction that they're headed in the media. Republicans fear Trump's trade war could lead to a political wipeout. This coming from the far left Hill. Republican lawmakers say there's a good chance that President Trump's trade war will boomerang on Republican politicians in 2026, as rising prices and shrinking growth could offset other accomplishments by the GOP. Republican senators are pointing to the 1932 and 1982 elections as historical examples of when trade wars and resulting price inflation hurt their party at the ballot box, and they are worried that history could repeat itself. Thom Tillis from North Carolina said in the national election, you can go back to 1982, when I think it was about 26 congressional seats that were lost by Republicans. No doubt, if we're having the same discussions about tariffs in February of next year, all the indicators would be wrong track. He said the Trump administration needs to land the favorable trade deals that's promised by February of next year, or Republicans could pay a steep political price. They've got about 10 months to wrap a bow around this and say, see, I told you so. Or you're going to start to see political headwinds. Senator Mike Rounds said it's not good for my farmers, so you see some people pushing back on these tariffs. Who else? There was another quote. Rand Paul is warning fellow Republicans that they could face landslide defeats next year if they don't change course on trade, which he said could trigger a severe economic recession. Was anybody surprised that watches a show that voted for Trump that he went this tariff direction? He did so with the first term, and he made it clear that he would do this. So to act now as if the American people are shocked, I think is a little I would say that it's disingenuous at best. But your thoughts on that, was that a surprise to you? Now, we are going to wrap up today's edition of Frankly Speaking when we come back and go through some stories very quickly. Get your last-minute comments in so I can read them before the end of the broadcast. Also, if you are just joining us, go to WYDCTV.com. We have the poll question up today, the question of the day, which is, have you done your taxes? We've heard from many of you just commenting here on the program, but make sure you vote. Have you done your taxes? As tomorrow is tax day, and as we talk about politics, the Ronald Reagan quote that Republicans feel like every day is July 4th, Democrats feel like every day is April 15th. So tomorrow is the big tax day. Stay with us. We'll be right back, wrapping up today's edition of Frankly Speaking. So get those comments in. Stay with us.
Attention, Elmeron may lead to vision loss.
If you have suffered vision problems after taking Elmeron to treat bladder pain, call the Hearn Law Firm. Elmeron may be responsible for your vision problems, and you may deserve compensation for your injuries.
If you took Elmeron and now have vision problems, call the Hearn Law Firm at 888-308-3866 right now. You could find out if you qualify in less than 2 minutes. Call 888-308-3866 for your free case review.
Driving the Nissan Rogue with Google built in is like the perfect assist.
Hey Google, add basketball hoop to the shopping list.
See why it's been named a Consumer Guide Best Buy for 11 years in a row. Drive the award-winning Nissan Rogue today.
Now get a low $249 per month lease on Rogue, or get up to $2,750 total savings on Rogue Rock Creek.
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. And how can we help like that in our small businesses, not to sound cliche, but are the backbone of our community? Let's talk about thanks, as always, to you, the viewers, for sending in your texts and your voicemails. Now we go to a comment. This is from John in Elmira. Make sure to catch Frankly Speaking only on AM Big Fox News WYDC, or visit our website at WYDC. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Comment from a viewer. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. Off the wall comment. When most politicians retire, they hit the speaking tour for income. I don't recall Biden or Harris showing up in the news for their after office speeches. It seems we have been unburdened by what has been. Great reference there. Thanks, Fred. I know that Harris and Biden both signed up with some type of agency. When Biden said that he would go out and give speeches that help politicians campaign, he was laughed at by his own party, and some even getting angry at him, saying, we don't want you anywhere near us. You're not going to help things. There's nothing you can do to help. So I don't imagine we'll see too many speeches from him. Harris has given a couple of speeches recently, but not as frequently as maybe you would expect. So yes, that's a good point. Thank you, Fred. Mark says tariffs are working with one exception, China. Last I heard, there were 70 countries bowing to Trump. China can kind of buckle up for this. It's the other countries. Who was it? I had the number here, to your point, and I can't remember the exact amount that is being. Oh, there it is. On State of the Union on CNN, National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett said that it was 130 countries. And so right now, 130 countries have responded, and we're negotiating with them, and they've got their rate down to 10%. So really, it's almost a two-world system. There's a process about China that's very, very, it's all, and then the process for everybody else. So it's theirs is their own, and everybody else has kind of a different set of rules. So the process for everybody else is in order. It's clearly people are coming to town with great, great offers. Elizabeth Warren says that Congress has to take tariff authority away from Trump. That was on State of the Union. She also said Trump's tariffs are loaded with chaos and corruption. There is a very interesting piece at the New York Post, if you have a moment. It's by Victor Davis Hanson, and it said, tariffs and trade wars. Trump asks tough questions critics won't answer. 10 tariff questions aren't being asked but should be. 1, President Donald Trump's so-called trade war. 2, do nations prefer surpluses or deficits? 3, would our trade partners prefer to trade places with us? 4, what if wages went up at the rate of the stock market? 5, is Wall Street's panic based on what might happen or on what is happening? That's a great question. 6, is the frenzy caused by the Trump economic agenda? 7, what about North American neighbors? 8, is the Trump agenda bad economic news? 9, was the Biden record preferable? And finally, why the negotiations and why now? And they answered some of those questions. You can get that at the New York Post. Well, let's go quickly. U.S. northern border faces Great Lakes threat from bad actors pressing the waterfront weakness, according to experts. So we've talked about that issue with the northern border as well. A far left reporter was giving an interview on CNN. Taylor Lorenz heaped praise on Luigi Mangione, the man who allegedly assassinated the United Healthcare CEO. It's hilarious to see these millionaire media pundits on TV clutching their pearls about someone standing on murder charges when this is the United States of America, as if we don't lionize criminals, she said. She called Mangione, quote, morally good man. That does it for us today. Thank you for all the comments. Thank you to everybody who joined us on their spring break. Don't forget to answer a question about your taxes, or if you're too busy doing your taxes, good luck. I hope you are able to finish that up, wrap that up before tomorrow's deadline. We will be back tomorrow morning and every weekday morning. You can continue to comment at that number on the bottom of the screen throughout the day. We take those either through voicemail, you can leave a message, or through text, and I'll do my best to try to read them in the morning. So again, that number is 24/7. Have a great day, everyone. We'll be back tomorrow morning with Frankly Speaking, only on WYDC TV Big Fox. We will see you bright and early. I look forward to it already.